got to fight this guy. Oh, you got injured in camp. You lose to that guy too. Now you're set back when you could have been a champion.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of like weirdness going on with possibilities and, you know, just luck, bad luck, and good luck.
Bad luck and good luck. Timing, I think, is a big thing.
How is something like this allowed to happen? How is Jake Paul allowed to fight Gervonta Davis? It's completely unfair. It is completely just, I can't say the word that I want to say because I don't want to get canceled.
And then going out there and taking on a guy that is maybe 92 pounds heavier, that is at least 65 pounds heavier than you. That is called one thing. That's called being.
Joe Rogan fiercely criticized Jake Paul for choosing to fight Gervonta Davis despite the massive size difference between them. He emphasized that weight classes exist for a reason, to protect fighters from dangerous mismatches, and ignoring them puts athletes at serious risk. Rogan argued that Jake seems more interested in hyping the event than upholding fairness in boxing. His biggest concern is that Jake's significantly larger frame and punching power could genuinely endanger Tank, making the fight both unsafe and completely unnecessary.
That'd be sweet.
That would be pretty wild.
Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy.
Because you know, like two guys are facing off each other, like, and they know, like, there's no rescue every 5 minutes.
Yeah. And you go into it knowing you're either getting knocked down or submitted. Or
Michael Bisping voiced deep concern over Jake Paul's decision to fight Gervonta Davis despite the extreme weight disparity. He highlighted that Jake is preparing to face an opponent nearly 100 pounds lighter, which completely disrupts the natural balance of the sport. Bisping reminded fans that Jake's bout with Mike Tyson was already controversial, given Tyson's age and long retirement. Now, this matchup with Tank Davis adds another layer of criticism, as it seems less about fair competition and more about Jake seeking an easy edge. Bisping emphasized that boxing is built on equality between fighters, yet this fight leans so heavily in Jake's favor that it feels less like a legitimate contest and more like a calculated move for personal gain at the expense of Tank's safety.
That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, I just beat the baddest man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What don't you understand about this? If you want respect from your peers, if you want everyone on the planet to look at you and take you seriously and give you credit as a boxer, you have to take on challenges that are real. You have to go up against someone that keeps you up at night, against someone that gets you out of bed in the morning to go for a run because the fear of them beating you down is real. Not going up against someone that is so small. If you were to go up to this guy in a bar and try and start a fight with them, people would look at you and say one word, whoa, stop being such a bully. Leave him alone. You are way bigger than this guy. And that's clearly what we have here. It is ridiculous. When you look at the tail of the tape, Gervonta Tank Davis, granted, a very, very skilled boxer, a world champion. He's had some great wins. He's had a tremendous career. He's got 28 knockouts on his record. I'm just looking at the tail of the tape here. 30 years old, Jake Paul, 28. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" tall, whereas Jake Paul is 6'1". I would never dream on picking on a guy that is 5'5" tall. Granted, there's some tough guys out there that are 5'5", okay? They're smaller guys, you know, but for 5'5", they'll pack a good punch. Typically, they're mixed martial artists or boxers, yeah.
Teddy Atlas reacted to the face-off between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis, immediately pointing out the massive size difference between the two. He joked that Tank is so small compared to Jake that he'd need a ladder just to reach his chin. Atlas acknowledged that differences in skill and style are natural parts of boxing, but in this case, the size gap is far too extreme. He emphasized that Tank is simply too undersized to land clean shots effectively, making the fight appear completely mismatched right from the start.
Particulars should be in the contract, but I would probably look for one thing that is not the common thing to have in a contract if I'm Tank. A ladder. A ladder. Can I get a ladder? Somebody? You know what I mean? Hey, look, all kidding aside, if he hits him on the chin the way he can punch, Jake might be doing a dance. You know what I mean? Not voluntarily either. But we'll get into that more later. The thing that I'm talking about right here is what you said. It was stark. The size difference was really, you couldn't ignore it. We understand the talent difference, the experience difference. We understand all of that. But the size, the pure, and we understand small guys can beat big guys. We just saw Crawford do it to Canelo, but you know, a little different. The size difference was, I mean, it was eye-catching, jaw-dropping, and it made me think. And I'm going to ask Richie, our man here who's doing all the taping, who does such a marvelous job. I'm going to ask him because I know he's an expert in this area. But it reminded me of one of the Rocky movies where they had the face, where they did the wrestling thing with Rocky and Hulk Hogan, a.k.a. Thunderlips. He was Thunderlips.
Joe Rogan pointed out that Jake Paul's approach seems driven more by promotion than genuine competition. He explained that these kinds of matchups are designed to attract casual fans and stir curiosity by pairing fighters who normally wouldn't share a ring. According to Rogan, the buzz, betting talk, and spectacle surrounding such fights have little to do with sporting integrity and everything to do with grabbing attention. He believes Jake understands exactly how to keep himself in the spotlight, using boxing as a marketing tool, even when the matchups make little sense from a competitive standpoint.
Problem. That makes it a problem. My opinion is, I just want to say, in case someone calls me into court, I'm a fucking idiot and I don't know nothing. And don't take my advice.
I love the Saudis.
Don't take my opinion.
I love the Israeli government. I love everybody.
That had nothing to do with them. That was Jake Paul promoting it. You know, it's just doesn't bother me.
There's compromising the sport, and that's like bad. It's just like
if I bet on it, it
watching
bothers the
it is
fuck out
hard.
of me.
Watching it with people who are so in on it, and then also man, the sports betting apps, they introduced like chat apps in them in Australia, so it's like they're trying to take the place of social media companies where you go together and you meet your friends. Like betting should be exciting enough without having a weird.
They're just trying to draw you in.
thing.
They're just trying to make money, right? So
Leonard Ellaby explained that Gervonta "Tank" Davis wasn't in the right mental space to take on Lamont Roach. He revealed that Tank had been dealing with several personal challenges and didn't want to add more stress to his plate at that time. This lack of motivation, Ellaby said, was the real reason the fight never materialized, despite fans eagerly anticipating it. He added that Tank's priority was managing his personal life rather than proving a point in the ring, and stepping away from the Roach fight was his way of avoiding unnecessary pressure.
Roach. And what does that mean? It means that he could not get inspired, that he was not motivated to fight Lamont Roach, that his mind was not in a place where it was like, yeah, okay, let's get it. And he was going to war with Lamont Roach. He was going through the motions with Lamont Roach during the training camp and could never really get himself motivated to really give the best of himself against Lamont Roach. And that probably affected him during training and during the fight. And that is something that can happen, especially if you really look back on what happened with the Lamont Roach fight and all of the ups and downs about that fight being made. Because first, if you recall, he wasn't supposed to be fighting Lamont Roach. The person he was supposed to be fighting was Vasily Lomachenko. You know, the guy that everybody says that he doesn't want to fight, that he didn't want to fight. Gervonta Davis was up and prepared to fight Vasily Lomachenko. So it shouldn't surprise anybody that if he tries to make a fight with Vasily Lomachenko, that fight doesn't go through. Then he tries to make a fight with Lamont Roach. He can't get the fight done for Houston with Lamont Roach because there was all kind of venue problems and drama going on around Gervonta getting a venue in Houston. So they wind up eventually moving the fight to New York City and pushing it back even further. So not only is it a fight where he didn't just jump out of from his last fight that he had and jump into a fight with Lamont Roach, he got held up. And then also during that period of time, he had to spend some time in jail for a parole violation.
Leonard Ellaby openly admitted that, to tell the truth, Gervonta "Tank" Davis just couldn't get himself up for the Lamont Roach fight. What he meant was that Tank couldn't find the inspiration or motivation to face Roach. His mind simply wasn't in that "let's go to war" mentality. Throughout training camp, Tank was going through the motions rather than pushing himself to give his best, and that lack of drive likely affected both his preparation and his performance. Ellaby reminded fans that the situation surrounding the Roach fight was complicated from the start. Originally, Tank wasn't even supposed to fight Lamont Roach. His target was Vasily Lomachenko, the opponent many believed he had been avoiding. Tank was actually ready and willing to face Lomachenko, but when that fight fell through, he turned to Roach instead. From there, things spiraled. Venue issues in Houston, scheduling conflicts, and constant delays eventually forced the fight to move to New York City. On top of all that, Tank also dealt with legal troubles, including time spent in jail for a parole violation, which disrupted his rhythm and focus. All these distractions added up, leaving him mentally drained and disconnected from the sport's grind. Recent reports now suggest that Gervonta Davis is planning to retire after his upcoming fight with Jake Paul. According to sources, this decision is less about chasing legacy or titles and more about securing long-term financial stability. Many observers believe Tank accepted the Jake Paul fight mainly for the guaranteed payout, viewing it as a business move rather than a competitive step forward. Analysts also note that the personal struggles and pressures he's faced may have influenced his choice to take this unconventional matchup. In this light, Tank's bout with Jake Paul appears to be a calculated decision, one final opportunity to cash in before walking away from professional boxing.
You make, like, let's go band for band on what you making. Again, there's nothing wrong with Tank going to get his money, but let's all be clear that that's all the fight is for Tank. He's telling you without telling you that he's fighting Jake just because he's getting $40 million. So when we talk about boxing being dead, Tank has to line up at the front of the line. I can't blame him, but don't throw around, oh, boxing's dead and people switch sides and all of that. You chose not to be great. That's it. You chose not to be great. Stuff like that, choices like that will kill boxing, for sure. On a competitive level, it won't kill it on a business level. On a business level, until people run out of interest in these kind of matchups, it'll do well. On a competitive level, choosing not to fight the best will kill the sport. So maybe it's better if people like Tank aren't in the sport. And I don't even say that because I want that to be the case. I think Tank is ridiculously talented, but you can't want a fighter to fight more than what they want to. You can't. Tank fans or Tank people that like Tank and think he's one of the best, you can't want it for him. And then Shakur came back with, that's how I know you soft. I can't even go back and forth with you soft ass. You rather pop to me on social media than get in that fire and get embarrassed. I get it. Peace and blessings upon you, cuz. He says, the people got your chest out so bad. You talking like you a killer, forgetting that you the one that runs, bitch. I'll be bring the fight to you. This dude, a made-up character. Quote, blessings upon you. Clown-ass dude, wanna be Kevin Gates? Oh my goodness. I mean, here's the thing though. You can't say that stuff about Shakur if you're not willing to fight him. This is the point I think that we're going to come to today, is that Tank can say all this stuff he wants, but if you're not willing to fight Shakur, then none of it means anything anymore. Even if you believe that Tank is going to knock him out, even if you believe that Shakur's a runner, or that he's not in the trenches, or he's not a boxer that's willing to bring the fight, or whatever, none of it matters. You're talking from the sideline.
Daniel Cormier expressed his disbelief at how the fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis was even approved. From his perspective, the entire setup seemed flawed right from the start. He recalled the press conference where Tank himself appeared unsure about which weight class the fight would take place in, a detail Cormier said was far from minor. To him, that uncertainty highlighted just how unusual and unstructured the arrangement truly was, especially in a sport where weight divisions exist to protect fighters and maintain fairness. Cormier also emphasized the glaring size difference between Jake and Tank, calling it impossible to ignore. He pointed out that Jake Paul is simply too big for Gervonta Davis, and that such a matchup stretches beyond what's normally acceptable in boxing. Cormier openly questioned how a fight with such a visible imbalance could have been sanctioned by the governing bodies. In his view, this kind of mismatch not only undermines the fairness of the sport but also poses serious safety risks for the smaller fighter. Ultimately, Cormier believes this bout reflects poorly on boxing's integrity and serves as a worrying example of how entertainment is being prioritized over true competition.
And two, Gervonta Davis don't even know what weight they fighting, D.
Maximum weight of 195 pounds for this exhibition. The fight will be contested over 10 3-minute rounds.
I said it was 190.
The fight is 195 pounds, Tank, as you know.
DC, I watched this, and we have our priorities way misplaced when we're talking about boxing. Like, everybody's complaining about this Ali act and all. Like, how is something like this allowed to happen? How is Jake Paul allowed to fight Gervonta Davis? It's
I don't know.
Completely unfair. It is completely just, I can't say the word that I want to say because I don't want to get canceled, but this fight should not be happening. And the press conference was embarrassing. Gervonta Davis should not have a mic in front of him. It was absolutely embarrassing watching this thing.
D, why? Why, D?
Just the fact that, like, every time when Jake Paul would say something to Gervonta Davis, he didn't know how to answer it. He was was comparing himself to like P. Diddy at moments, and I was like, oh my God, get a mic away from this guy. This fight shouldn't be happening. And then he didn't even know what weight they were fighting. He's like, I thought it was
bad,
190, it was 195.
That was the craziest thing. That was the thing that stood out to me the most. Was that when they go, the rehydration limit or something is 195, and he goes, wait, I thought it was 190. Dean, that's
Gervonta Davis reflected on his career and admitted that his original goal was never about becoming a boxing champion. Instead, his focus was on earning enough money to escape a life of hardship and build a more secure future for himself. Boxing, he explained, was his way out, a path to financial stability rather than fame or glory. Titles and recognition were never his main motivation. What truly drove him was the desire for security and independence. This mindset now puts his recent career choices into clearer perspective, showing that for Davis, success.
Why he's fighting YouTube sensation turned professional boxer Jake Paul, who has 12 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 7 wins by way of knockout, opposed to fighting against the likes of his peers who are well accomplished and superstars in their own right for legacy fights like Shakur Stevenson, like Teofimo Lopez, like Devin Haney. Why he's not interested in those fights. And he gets real, right? He gets real, and only thing we could do is salute it. Right? Because he's saying, I never told y'all I wanted to be a world champion. I never told y'all I wanted to be undisputed. I got into this for myself and my circumstances to escape from my circumstances. And that's real. We can't blame him for that. We hold him in high regard because the statements he's made and misled people when he said he got a hit list that he wants to check off before he retires, and that hit list includes Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, Lomachenko, who turned down the fight because of a severe back injury. And then he told the world, he told Champside, it would be great for him to become undisputed. So I think that he had a change of heart at some point in time along the way.
Showbiz the Adult gave Jake Paul credit for using his platform to bring fresh attention to boxing, praising his ability to generate excitement and attract casual fans. He acknowledged that Jake's promotional skills and marketing influence have expanded the sports audience in ways few others have managed. However, Showbiz also addressed the criticism that continues to follow Jake throughout his career. He noted that many boxing purists question Jake's opponent choices, pointing out that he often targets fighters who are either undersized, retired, or simply not competitive at his level. While Jake's impact on the sport's visibility is undeniable, the controversy over his matchmaking remains a major point of debate.
A hero. Though Jake Paul is definitely appreciated by the boxing world when it comes to what he is giving to the sport, especially women's boxing. Okay, I mean, it goes without saying that Jake Paul, an MVP, has added to the sport of boxing. But Jake Paul, the fighter, people are over his shit. There's a huge amount of boxing pugilists in the boxing community who's over his shit. And if Gervonta Tank Davis stops that, if he is the one who stops this whole train, knocking out Jake Paul, he will become a boxing hero. People will then say, now get the hell out the sport. And I'm talking about from a fighter's perspective. That's what they're going to say. Now, it's not going.
This situation has sparked frustration among fans who value boxing's tradition of fair and balanced matchups. Showbiz explained that the ongoing debate raises questions about whether Jake Paul is ultimately helping or hurting the sport's reputation. He stressed that if Gervonta Tank Davis dominates Jake Paul, it could put an end to the era of mismatched fights. In that scenario, Tank wouldn't just earn a major victory, he'd be hailed as a hero for protecting boxing's integrity. Showbiz emphasized how powerful that moment could be visually and virally, noting that seeing Tank, a 5 feet 5 inches lightweight, assert his skills over Jake Paul would capture massive attention. He highlighted that Tank's talent and determination, skills pay the bills, could make him far more recognized and respected than ever before. Such a knockout or display of dominance would cement Tank as both a top-tier boxer and a true hero in the eyes of fans, proving that merit and fairness still matter in the sport.
Optically, visually seeing that go viral, and I mean go viral, and Jake Paul will never hear the end of it.
We're gonna have to help you up. We're gonna have to help you up. We're gonna see about it. Help you up. We're gonna.
Because Gervonta Tank Davis is not only a real boxer, he's a real boy. He's 5'5". He's a lightweight. Skills pay the bills. Let him knock out Jake Paul, give him Bambi legs, or knock him down. Gervonta Tank Davis, that moment will go viral, and he will be a far bigger, well-known boxer than he is today, and he will also be a hero. And that's the Black True Sugars. That you guys don't want to admit it. Don't bull jive.